Most people assume modern medicine basically started 100 years ago. Antibiotics, vaccines, MRI machines, the whole deal. But here's the thing nobody really talks about. A huge chunk of what we call breakthroughs were actually figured out thousands of years ago by people who had zero idea why any of it worked. Pain relievers, wound treatments, even early antibiotics. Stuff that's probably sitting in your medicine cabinet right now traces back to ancient Egypt, ancient China, and a plant so popular it got farmed into extinction. So today, 5 medicines from the ancient world that are weirder and way more relevant than you'd guess. Starting with the one almost everyone watching this has used in the last week. First up, willow bark, basically the original aspirin. Sumerian texts from around 4,000 years ago already describe willow as a remedy for pain and swelling, and the Egyptians wrote about it too, in the Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest medical documents on Earth. From there, it just kept spreading. Hippocrates was reportedly recommending willow bark tea for fevers and aches over 2,000 years ago, centuries before anyone understood chemistry. Here's the twist: why it wasn't until the late 1800s that scientists actually isolated the active compound, salicin, and turned it into aspirin. So for roughly 3,800 years, people were basically taking aspirin without knowing what it was or why it worked at all. From pain relief to wound care, and this one gets even stranger. Ancient Egyptian doctors used honey constantly, not just as food, but as an actual wound dressing, mixed with grease and lint and packed straight onto cuts and burns. And it wasn't just superstition. Honey is naturally antibacterial. It pulls moisture out of wounds and creates an environment most bacteria can't survive in. Modern hospitals still use medical-grade honey today, especially for infections that resist normal antibiotics. So this primitive remedy isn't just a quirky fact from history class. It's literally being used in hospitals right now, on problems our most advanced drugs sometimes can't touch. From wound care to something even stranger, mold. This sounds like a myth, but it's documented. Ancient Egyptian and Mesopotamian texts describe pressing moldy bread directly onto infected wounds, and similar remedies later show up in Serbian and Chinese folk medicine too. Obviously, nobody back then knew what bacteria or fungus actually were. But that's kind of the point. Alexander Fleming didn't exactly discover penicillin in 1928. He rediscovered something people had been stumbling onto for thousands of years by accident, over and over again. Which raises a weirder question: how many other accidental cures like this existed and just never got written down? Now let's flip it. From accidental medicine to a cure that was secretly a poison. In ancient China, mercury was considered one of the most powerful elixirs of immortality you could take. Emperor Qin Shi Huang, yes, the terracotta army guy, was obsessed with living forever, and historians believe mercury-based immortality pills may have actually contributed to his death at just 49. Rome wasn't innocent either. Mercury showed up in cosmetics and medicines there too, even as some physicians at the time noticed that workers exposed to it developed tremors and got seriously ill. So you've got a substance marketed as the literal key to eternal life that was quietly poisoning some of the most powerful people on the planet the entire time. From the deadliest medicine in history to one so loved it disappeared completely. Last one, and this is the wildest, silphium. It only grew in one specific region near ancient Cyrene, in what's now Libya, and the Greeks and Romans used it for everything, as a seasoning, a digestive remedy, and reportedly one of the earliest known forms of contraception. It was so valuable it actually appeared on coins, and some accounts claim it was worth more than its weight in silver. But it was farmed so aggressively that by around the 1st century AD, silphium was completely gone. Extinct. We have descriptions, drawings, even coins. But to this day, nobody knows for certain what plant it actually was or whether it really worked the way ancient writers claimed. So to recap, willow bark gave us aspirin almost 4,000 years early. Honey turned out to be a legit antibiotic. Hiding in plain sight the whole time? Moldy bread basically pre-invented penicillin by accident. Mercury convinced emperors it was eternal life while slowly killing them. And silphium was so popular that humanity used it into extinction without ever fully understanding what it even was. And honestly, that's the bigger pattern here. Ancient civilizations weren't just sitting around being superstitious until real science showed up. They were running experiments, generation after generation, sometimes landing on the right answer for the wrong reasons and sometimes the exact opposite. Which makes you wonder, what are we doing right now that people centuries from now will look back on exactly the same way?